part 3, starting off Proverbs 16. And if you remember in 15, we have some cross references to check out. For sake of time, I have to be somewhere, so I'll probably do the cross references at a later time. So Proverbs 16 verse 6, by mercy and truth iniquity is purged, and by the fear of God men depart from evil. Covered this in the previous videos about the fear of the Lord in part 2. Verse 7, when a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. Verse 9, a man's heart deviseth his ways, but the Lord directeth his steps. So think about that one, and there's a bunch of cross references here too. So the Lord is going to direct your steps. It's something to think about. Like a lot of these, you want to take time and think about it. Verse 11, a just weight and balance are the Lord's. All the weights of the bags are his work. And if you haven't watched part 1 of this, maybe you're watching this and haven't seen the other parts, I would suggest watching part 1 because I lay some principles for studying the Bible. That's not only going to help you with studying Proverbs, but the rest of the Bible. So make sure you watch part 1, and that way you kind of know what I'm looking for as I'm going through this. And again, some of the stuff, some study tips I give. So verse 27, an ungodly man diggeth up evil, and his lips there is as a burning fire. James chapter 3 verse 6, and the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. Verse 33, the lot is cast into the lap, but the whole disposing thereof is of the Lord. And they probably could have had some cross references here, but think about that one. So we're going to 17. I'm not going to get it all done in this video. It's going to have to be another part. So I just had to yawn there. So in verse 5, whoso mocketh the poor reproacheth his maker, and he that is glad at calamities shall not be unpunished. Take a sip of water. Okay, so continue on. Verse 10, a reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. So again, a lot of these, that's something to think about. And with Proverbs, take some time, read it slowly, think about it. And I know with Proverbs, I have to really slow down and a lot of times take my time with thinking about it. Seeing this reference? I'm just reading this reference. So 17, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Ruth 1:16, and Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee, For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. My people shall be my people, and thy God my God. And capital G. Always pay attention when the Bible has capital G for God and lowercase g. Maybe people that are first reading the Bible, or maybe you haven't started yet, just notice that when you do start reading the Bible, there's going to be lowercase g and capital G. So there's only one God, and that's capital G. When the Bible's talking about, false gods, pagan gods, they have the lowercase g. So here in Proverbs 2, we have this 22. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. And, I notice too when I'm like kind of, when I'm merry, I feel better. But then, when stuff happens and I'm maybe down, I can feel more pain as far as body pain and stuff like that. And then, when I'm kind of happy and stuff, I don't notice it. So, just some of these verses you want to think about yourself too. And a lot of times when I'm reading the Bible, I try to think, how is it in my life? And the more you read the Bible, the more you're going to realize that you fall very short, okay, and that you commit more sin than you realize. And again, as I'm reading the Bible, I realize I don't stack up, and I fall short, and thankful for the Messiah and the Savior, because for those people, hopefully you're not relying on your own righteousness, because you're not going to be justified by your own good works. You're only going to be justified through what Jesus Christ did for you. At the same time, you got to believe. You got to believe it, and you got to make Jesus Christ your Savior. So in verse 28, well, I'm going to read maybe 27 also. He that hath, and we're in Proverbs 17, he that hath knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. So, I mean, you're not always supposed to say, you're not supposed to say everything you know, and spare your words. Verse 28, even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. So, times when you keep quiet, you don't open up, you don't speak, it's going to keep you from trouble, it's going to keep you from sin. Proverbs has a lot about that. And times in my life, a lot of times even, a lot of times, maybe this week or last week, should have kept maybe my mouth from saying something. So it's something to practice, something to be aware of. Job 13:5. Oh, that ye would altogether hold your peace! Exclamation point. And it should be your wisdom. So I wonder, sometimes I too think how they said it, I don't know. But just something to think about too, like when you see some of the stuff where it's being said, like in Job, they're having a conversation, they're talking, and here's the exclamation point. I wonder how it was said. So now, Proverbs 18, and I'm just going to check this. And it's, let's see, verse 5. It is not good to accept the person of the wicked, to overthrow the righteous in judgment. Let's see, I'm going to read you Leviticus 19:15. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shall thou judge thy neighbor. Deuteronomy 1:17. Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is God's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. So you're not supposed to have respect of persons in judgment. And unfortunately, you see a lot of that today where people have, the unfortunate part is people having respect of persons, meaning that because someone has a certain status, or even if they have maybe a high status, they're wealthy, someone will pervert judgment where they're not judging correctly. Or maybe if someone's even poor, maybe they pervert judgment because they feel bad for them. But you're not supposed to respect persons, and God is the judge, so he's the judge. Always remember that God is the judge. And in Deuteronomy 1:17, it says, if the cause is too hard, or it says the God for the judgment is God's. So it tells you right there. Verse 7: a fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. Verse 10: the name of the Lord is a strong tower, and the righteous runneth into it, and is safe. So, could be a study. When you're looking up these words, if you have a program, you could search tower and do a word search, and I might do that. So I might. And then when doing this, you can write down notes and stuff, like I said in the other parts. So if you see something like a verse, you want to write it down, maybe take notes on the computer. So I feel like I'm a little bit more organized when I do it in a notepad here on the computer, taking notes. So verse 19 in Proverbs 18: a brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and their contentions are like bars of a castle. So I've noticed this too. If you offend a Christian brother, it's going to be hard to win them back as far as that fellowship. So just some advice there. Verse 21: death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Matthew chapter 12, verse 37: For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. And verse 24 in Proverbs 18: a man that hath friends must shew himself friendly, and there's a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Proverbs 19 here now, and I'm not sure how far I got of probably going to be 10 more minutes or so, I want to get it all done on tomorrow, so but we'll see. Oops. So continuing on here, verse 5 of Proverbs 19: a false witness shall not be unpunished, but he that speaketh lies shall not escape. Verse 8: he that getteth wisdom loveth his own soul, he that keepeth understanding shall find good. So verse 12: the king's wrath is as the roaring of a lion, but his favor is as dew upon the grass. Verse 15: slothfulness casteth into a deep sleep, and an idle soul shall suffer hunger. Verse 16, he that keepeth the commandment keepeth his own soul, but he that despiseth his ways shall die. Verse 18, chasten thy son while there is hope, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. So you're going to have children, if you chasten them, they're going to cry, and then some people, oh, they're crying, or maybe they won't at all. Maybe the child starts crying, and then they don't chasten them. But here it says, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. So just because maybe a child cries before the chastening, or maybe right as it's happening, the Bible says, chasten thy son while there's hope, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. And the media and the news is gonna tell you not to do that, and there's this big push. But it's biblical to, chasten your sons and daughters, for those that have them, for those that have children. So verse 25, smite a scorner, and the simple will beware, and reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. So sometimes, well, I could comment on that one, but I think I might, because there's that verse, reprove a scorner. What's that? Lest he hate you. So look, reprove not a scorner, lest he hate you, or something like that. Hate thee or hate you. And this is a smite a scorner, and the simple will beware. And the rest of it, and reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. Verse 28, and ungodly witness scorneth judgment, and the mouth of the wicked devoureth iniquity. So there's the mouth of the wicked devouring iniquity, and the ungodly witness scoreth judgment. So that's something to think about. And Job 15 verse 16, how much more abominable and filthy is man, which drinketh iniquity like water. Verse 29, judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the back of fools. It's going on, verse 21. Verse 1, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Hosea 4:11, whoredom and wine and new wine take away the heart. Isaiah 28:7, but they also have erred through wine, and through strong drink are out of the way. The priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment. So warning against drunkenness and drinking. I do have a video on the YouTube channel, a dedicated study of warning people about drunkenness and drinking. Please watch it if you feel led to. So verse 2, the fear of a king is as the roaring of a lion. Whoso provoketh him to anger sinneth against his own soul. Verse 5, counsel in the heart of man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. Verse 6, most men will proclaim every one his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find? Verse 9, who can say, I have made my heart clean, I am pure from my sin? So this is an important verse, and all these verses are important. But today there's people on YouTube that deny the sin nature, and you got to realize the Bible says all have sinned, all have come short of God's glory, all have sinned. So in verse 9, who can say, I have made my heart clean, I am pure from sin, from my sin. I am pure from my sin. See that? From your sin. And here's a bunch of verses about, hey, and Job, and got all these. Psalms 51 verse 5, behold, I was sharpened in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. So I mean, you got all these verses here. You know, First John chapter 1 verse 8, if we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. So something to think about. And I have a video too on the sin nature. You can just type in the search toolbar on my channel, sin nature, and watch that video. It's important because there's people on YouTube coming out with videos saying that there is no sin nature, and don't be deceived by those false teachings. So just reading on here. So verse 20, whoso curseth his father or his mother, his lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness. So if there's young Christians, or children or teenagers listening, or even other ages, you might still have your parents around. The Bible makes it clear, listen to your mothers and fathers, listen to them, obey them. And, stuff can happen where, but, watch what language you use. And if you have done something like that, ask for forgiveness from God. And it's important to be sorry for that kind of thing. If, maybe you yelled or even swore at your parents or something like that, to ask for forgiveness and from God, and, be sorry that that you did it, of course, and don't do it again. And try more patience. We need more patience with that. And that goes the same with mothers and fathers. Not for mothers and fathers out there, don't provoke your children to wrath, and you got to be patient and long suffering towards your children too. And you got to lead by example and set the right example. And then with husbands and wives, love each other, and wives, submit to your husbands, and your conversations, and how you're going to set an example. So set the right example for your children. So verse 26, a wise king scattereth the wicked, and bringeth the wheel over them. Verse 27, the spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11, for what man knoweth the things of a man, save the spirit of man which is in him? Even so, the things of God knoweth no man but the Spirit of God. And again, 27, the spirit of man is a candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. Verse 29, the glory of young men is their strength, and the beauty of old men is their gray head. So, I'm just deciding if I should keep going here. Let's see how long this is. Kind of a longer. Let me just see here. I might end it here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll do one more here. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it wheresoever he will. So that's something to study about kings. You can, that might be a good search for king. Write it down, and you can use these programs to search. In Proverbs 21, every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. So a lot of if you talk to people, they say, "Oh yeah, they'll try to justify their own way, but every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts." So also remember, the heart is desperately wicked. Who can know it? In verse 3, to do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. And there's a lot of verses. I might write down this one, and we can maybe do a wrap-up video on it as far as going back to it, maybe, if there's time. So 21, verse 3. I had in the previous ones, if I can find it, which I don't know if I can, but I did want to go back to some of the ones in a previous video, and trying to look at my notes here. I don't know. Let's keep going on. If you can remember which ones I wanted to go back, I think it was in chapter 15. I know I wrote it down, but again, my notes are sometimes a little bit over the place. But there were some in Proverbs. I think it was 15, unless it was 14, that I want to go back to. I think I might have found it here. So again, notes and stuff. So verse 4, an high look and a proud heart, and the plowing of the wicked is sin. So verse 10, the soul of the wicked desireth evil, his neighbor findeth no favor in his eyes. James chapter 4, verse 5, do ye think that the scripture saith in vain, the spirit that dwelleth in us lusteth to envy? That's a lowercase s. Verse 13 of Proverbs 21, whoso stoppeth his ears at the cry of the poor, he shall cry himself, but shall not be heard. Matthew chapter 7, verse 2, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. 1 John chapter 3, verse 17, but whosoever hath his world's good, and seeth his brother have need, and shutteth up his bowels of compassion from him, how dwelleth the love of God in him? Verse 15 in Proverbs 21, it is joy to the just to do judgment, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity. So continuing on, verse 21, He that followeth after righteousness and mercy findeth life, righteousness, honor. So again, he that followeth after righteousness and mercy findeth life, righteousness, and honor. Verse 23, who keepeth his mouth and his tongue, keepeth his soul from troubles. Verse 27, the sacrifice of the wicked is abomination. How much more when he bringeth it with a wicked mind? Amos 5 verse 22, though ye offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them, neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beast. And again, there's a lot of references here. And I saw in Proverbs 15, verse 8, the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. In verse 29 of Proverbs 21, a wicked man hardeneth his face, but as for the upright, he directeth his ways. Verse 30 of Proverbs 21, there is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against the Lord. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 23, thus saith the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, neither let the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches, but let them that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me, that I am the Lord which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth. For in these things I delight, saith the Lord. Acts chapter 5, verse 39. But if it be of God, ye cannot overthrow it, lest happily ye be found even to fight against God. And Isaiah chapter 8, verse 9. Associate yourselves, O ye people, and ye shall be broken in pieces. And give ear, all ye of far countries, gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand. For God is with us. And again, verse 30 of Proverbs 21. There is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against the Lord. And I'm just going to read these. So I'm going to read the references first. Psalm 27, Psalm 20, verse 7. Some trust in chariots, and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. Psalm 33:17. A horse is a vain thing for safety, neither shall he deliver any by his great strength. Isaiah chapter 31, verse 1. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. So again, because they are very okay. One more time. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. And Psalm 3, verse 8, salvation belongeth unto the Lord. Thy blessing is upon thy people. Selah. And verse 31, the horse is prepared against the day of battle, but safety is of the Lord.